All right, JeWeL bowling fans, this is Josh Lewis, and in today's Tips and Tricks Thursday. Today we're going to be talking about spare shooting and a couple different methods. One, the 3-6-9 rule, and then we're going to talk about shooting spares with using a plastic ball going straight. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the 3-6-9 rule. So what is that, right? In essence, it's a method by which you can move your feet, maintaining your target, your release, and everything the same, by simply moving a certain number of boards for every pin that is away from the head pin. And we're going to give a couple of examples here. But in this scenario, we're talking about using your normal strike ball, right? Not changing balls, and simply moving your feet, keeping your target the same. So let's, for example, consider that you have left the 2-pin, okay? The 2-pin is 1 pin away from the head pin. What you're going to do is you're going to move your feet 3 boards in the opposite direction of the pin. So in this case, you're going to move yourself 3 boards to the right. 3-6-9. So if you had left the 4-pin, which is 2 pins away from the head pin, you're going to move your feet 6 boards to the right, keeping your target, your release, everything the same. And the same thing goes by leaving the 7-pin. You move yourself 9 boards to the right. Conversely, right, if you leave a pin to the right side of the head pin, if you're a right-hander, you would move your feet 3-6-9 to the left, keeping your target the same. So we're gonna zoom in a little bit and look at what that means from the pins just one more time. But that's effectively the 3-6-9 rule. All right, so if we go back to that 3-6-9 rule, we're gonna imagine that your target was the 3rd arrow, okay, from the right. And let's say that you're lining up with your feet. Let's say we're going straight up the 3rd arrow. So you're sliding, your ball's coming across that 3rd arrow going straight up. You are hooking the ball. If you had left the 2-pin, you're going to move yourself 3 boards to the right, but you're still going to be aiming toward that 3rd arrow. That's going to change the trajectory of the ball as it crosses the arrows and going down the lane. Conversely, let's say that we're still, first ball is that 3rd arrow, and we leave the 3-pin, 1 pin away from the head pin. We're going to move our feet 3 boards to the left, still aiming towards this 3rd arrow target, but now our ball is going to be crossing the 3rd arrow, slightly going to the right. That will enable the ball to hold line and get that 3-pin out. All right, so obviously if you're shooting the 10-pin and you're moving yourself 9 boards to the left and you're hooking the ball, that's going to be quite challenging, right? That's where we're probably going to talk about moving into a spare ball or a urethane ball, or at least changing your hand position to get the ball to go more end over end and less roll. We're going to get into that in just a minute. But remember, the 3-6-9 rule is really only a guideline. You have to figure out what works for you on the pattern that you're bowling on. For a typical house shot or ratio patterns that are above 4-to-1, 5-to-1, you could probably get away with the 3-6-9 or something very close to it. As you move into more advanced oil patterns, right, it becomes less and less optimal to use a hook ball to make your spares, and that's where it comes in and throwing the ball straight. Okay, so in all we just talked about the 3-6-9 rule, that's considering taking your reactive ball with your standard normal everyday release, coming around the ball and just simply moving your feet left or right depending on where the spare is. If you're going for a pin that is either like the 10-pin and you're a right-hander, or the 7-pin and you're a left-hander, and you're still using a reactive bowling ball, you will likely have to manipulate your hand position at the release point. By what I mean there is you're going to have to take hand out of the ball and make the ball roll more end over end. So basically crossing your fingers and thumb hole or very close to it. To do that, you have to keep your hand behind the ball at the release point, okay? So your thumb's coming out of it and your fingers are coming straight up the back of the bowling ball. Your normal release, right? Your thumb comes out, your fingers come around, and you're actually rotating the bowling ball. Shooting a spares with more end over end to keep the ball on line, that has to be straight up the back of the bowling ball. You'll likely have to do that with reactive. If you move to a plastic ball or a urethane bowling ball, the ball is naturally going to hook less, right? Therefore, you can get away with maintaining your typical release. One thing we didn't talk about is what happens when you leave a pin that's in the back row. Like an 8 pin or a 9 pin. How do you line up for that? So let's consider the 8 pin as a right-hander. Well, technically the 8 pin is directly behind the 2 pin, right? But if you were to line it up like a 2 pin for your spare, moving 3 boards to the right using your reactive bowling ball, that ball might actually hook past the 8 pin and never quite hit it. So in that case, I would say maybe move maybe 1 or 2 boards, not the full 3. Maybe even consider using your standard strike shot, because the ball typically, if it's not hitting the pocket and deflecting, i.e. shooting a spare, that ball should be able to hit that 8 pin no problem. Similar, let's say that you left the 2-8, right? Now you have to hit the 2 and the 8 pin. I would still consider moving a board or 2 to the right, allowing that reactive ball to be able to hook into the 2 pin and carry the 8 pin without deflecting. A very similar strategy there if for a left-hander shooting the 9 pin or the 3-9. But let's say that if you're a right-hander shooting the 9 pin, what do? Right? In this case, you can shoot it much like leaving the 6 pin, because the ball is going to be reactive and hook into the 6 pin. Well, when the pin isn't there and you're shooting the 9 pin alone, it will easily take out the 9 pin while aiming at the 6. Okay. Again, everything gets a lot simpler if you start taking the hand out of the bowling ball and coming more up the back, allowing it to be a straighter spare shot. But for those of you who don't have a plastic ball or haven't moved to one yet, again, the 3-6-9 rule is your friend. If you haven't already, make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube at JeWeL Bowling. And remember to share and like my Facebook page as well. Stay tuned for next week's tips and trick video, and make sure you look out for new ball review videos coming out this week as well.